www.microsoft.com. A host name allows for easier, recollection of a particular computer that you're looking for. But we have to resolve that back down to IP addresses. Okay, so we have this zone created. And a couple things we want to point out. We do have a record automatically generated for SRV1. So this host record was not created by me. This was done automatically. A couple other things we'll look at here. If I go to the properties of the benandbrady.com zone, if you're a little bit familiar with DNS, you'll know that there's multiple different types of zones we can create. One is Active Directory integrated. Another is either standard primary or standard secondary. In this case, when you have Windows 2000 automatically install DNS for you, it chooses to use Active Directory integrated. Okay, so that's what we see here. We've got an Active Directory integrated zone configured. In addition to that, this allowed dynamic updates question is answered with only secure updates. Okay, so that was the default setting as well. Now this is important because if you do this on your own and you leave this setting at no, you're going to run into issues with other domain controllers trying to join this particular domain. So you want to make sure this setting is at least set at yes. Okay, and secure updates will prevent client computers, hosts out there in the network, from registering with the DNS server if they're not supposed to be. Really not a big deal in our internal network, but if you had a DNS server that was sitting on a public network like the internet, then you'd be more concerned about having secure updates. Okay, so we have Active Directory integrated and we have a secure updated zone by default. So we wanted to point that out first. Another thing we want to point out is a reverse lookup zone. Reverse lookup zones are necessary in Windows 2000, not only for troubleshooting, but they also help when it comes down to name resolution and joining a second or third or further down the NAT domain controller to the network. So we really need to configure a reverse lookup zone. Reverse lookup zone is configured by taking the network ID of your network, okay, and then it reverses that actual network ID for you. So we'll show you an example of this. We're going to choose Active Directory integrated so we stay consistent. We're not required to. Okay, but we're going to stay consistent with what we have for our forward lookup zone. So we're just going to create a Active Directory integrated reverse lookup zone. Here's what I was talking about before. When you're setting up a reverse lookup zone, this is where you type in the network ID of the subnet that you want this DNS server to actually resolve names for. Okay, so if you're looking for more information on this, you should reference Microsoft Press material. It's decent talking about reverse and forward lookup zones. And also MegaLab 4 is all about DNS, and we do discuss this within that MegaLab. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and enter 192.168.1 here. And you notice down below, this is the actual name of the reverse lookup zone. So it's automatically generated for us when we type in 192.168.1. I'm going to go ahead and click Next and Finish. Okay, and then you see here that that reverse lookup zone is created. And one of the first things we want to do, we want to make sure that we get an entry for SRV1 created here because it wasn't done automatically. Since this reverse lookup zone did not exist when this entry was added, it was not generated automatically. So we're going to have to go ahead and add this record. And a reverse lookup zone record is called a PTR or a pointer record. Okay, so we're going to specify the IP address of SRV1, which is 201, and we're going to browse for the host record. Okay, we're not putting an IP address there. We're literally browsing for the host record. So I'm going through the forward lookup zone of benandbrady.com, and I go and find that record. And this record, srv1.benandbrady.com, is now attached to this PTR record 201. Okay, and we see this entry here. So this is how we initially configure DNS after we, install Active Directory. So once again, you need to make sure that a couple things are taken care of. One is that we have at least dynamic updates. We're going to leave secure updates since that was set. Active Directory integrated zones are not a requirement, but they are installed by default. And same thing here. Secure and Active Directory integrated. These don't have to match up, by the way. These are completely independent of each other. But like I mentioned a couple times, for consistency, we're going to match them up. Okay, let's take a look at a troubleshooting tool that we'll utilize further on in this lab, but let's get a feel for how it works right now. And that's going to be NSLookup. NSLookup is a command line tool that's used to troubleshoot DNS. Okay, and you get to it by going to the command prompt and then typing in NS lookup, name server lookup. When you hit enter here, it does an automatic query to whoever you have configured as your DNS server. Okay, so let me minimize this a second and show